So as you know, things stand there, nothing there right now on the honest front, and I don't think there will be in terms of a blockbuster by the deadline. But Knicks always trying to dabble in the margins, especially by the trade deadline, albeit a tricky situation now with them creeping closer to that second apron. I see their needs threefold. I look at the backup point guard spot. Look, I like seeing Kolek out there getting the minutes, getting the burn, but he's still overmatched at times. I look at the backup wing spot. Good news, as you reported, OG's coming back. Josh is playing well. Mikal playing phenomenal. I still think they need a little bit more versatility there. And then back up big. You know, Mitch is looking kind of laboring out there, man. Like, you know, Huck Porty, inexperienced. Yabusele, ineffective. Where do you think they address in those three areas potentially at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it. Those three areas are where the potential holes are. If I'm just thinking about it, and you're thinking about it logically, right? They had Malcolm Brogdon in camp. I think the hope was he was going to have that backup point guard spot to where you'd have a veteran there and a guy who has a proven track record in the league. Tyler Kolek, he's had really good moments. I think he's played well. I think he's, particularly defensively, I think he's
Yeah.
impressed the Knicks. But if you're talking about winning a title, can you rely on a player with the experience of a Kolek, or do you need to go out and get a veteran? So that's why I go backup point guard first and foremost. What that market looks like, it remains to be seen. I mean, Sacramento, I think, is going to be open for business. So maybe, Dennis Schroeder, Chris Paul, there's always kind of speculation about Paul. I don't think anything, I mean, I know nothing is there. I can say that definitively. But I do think that's the first order of business. If everything remains the same and everybody's health remains the same, then I think, you go into that week before the deadline beating the bushes for a backup guard.
Now, Bondi had mentioned Alvarado. I like that as a potential reunion. He's making, I think he's roughly around $3 or $4 million with New Orleans, a team that's going nowhere fast. It's hard because I'm not sure if they're going to be willing to take on extra years in salary, just given their cap situation. They very rarely do. But what about a guy like an Alvarado? What do you think?
Look, man, I'm always biased to those New York guys. I
Yeah.
love him, and I think he would fit like a glove. Just his approach to the game, the way he plays. Yeah, the money is tough. Especially you mentioned the second apron, like they're right up against it, can't go over it, and it just puts hurdles in front of you if you're trying to make deals. So off the top of my head, I don't know how the money would work, who would have to make it work, who would have to go out. But just in a vacuum, Jose Alvarado coming off your bench back in New York, I mean, yes,
Yeah.
I think that would be a great fit. There was one game, I can't remember the game specifically, but it was in the Garden. I think it was during the COVID season. He had a fantastic game, and he just put on a show. So, yeah, I think that would be somebody I would at least make a call on if I'm them.
Shout out to my guy Jay from Florida. He mentioned the name Najee Marshall with the Dallas Mavericks. Had a great year for them last year. 2 more years left on his deal, including this one at $9 million per. What do you think about Najee Marshall at the wing spot?
Yeah, it's like, what is Dallas going to do? I know there were some reports about them wanting to hold on to Kyrie Irving, and people around the league still kind of are unsure. They think that they might want to hold on to Kyrie Irving, but at the same time, Cooper Flag is the guy you're building around. So, what do you do there? How much do you try to quote unquote blow it up, or do you try to thread the needle of trying to compete while building around Cooper Flag? That's a message that's kind of been out there among teams from the Mavs. But if they say, hey, it's Cooper Flag's team, so we're gonna get off of Daniel Gafford or Najee Marshall, then I think a ton of teams would be interested. I don't know specifically if the Knicks would be interested. I'm not sure. They may not. I don't know. I haven't heard one way or the other, so I don't want to say anything definitively. But yeah, the length of the contract I think could be a holdup. But if I'm New York and you're talking about the front court, right? CP. Daniel Gafford, I mean, I know I think he has drawn interest already, with teams kind of smelling blood in the water with Dallas, and I'm sure Dallas would want draft compensation. The Knicks don't really have a lot of that, but that's a somewhere where I would be calling and checking the temperature on Dallas, because Gafford, I think, if you look at this roster, he could help you out. You'll probably have to sacrifice Mitchell Robinson, which I would hate.
Yeah,
personally.
that's tough.
Yeah, personally, I would hate it. But you look at business of basketball. Gafford, strong player, has a track record. So we'll see, man. But that's in Dallas is certainly Dallas and Sacramento. I think are two places where you're looking at who's going to be available, who isn't going to be available. There could be a lot of movement there.
Going back to, I don't remember if we talked about this in the preseason show, but Brody, Russell Westbrook going to the Kings. I know a lot of Knicks fans he's a very polarizing player, but I'm just thinking about someone with life. And Chris Paul, forget about it, but someone with some legs still left in him. Was there no interest between the two sides in the offseason, or was he more interested in? I know the Sacramento thing was hot for the whole offseason, but was he more focused on the West Coast, or was there really no interest from your standpoint with the Knicks?
Yeah, right as free agency was starting, I know that there was mutual interest. Obviously, to what degree it was, I don't know, but for sure, Russell looked at the Knicks as a destination, and there were Knicks people who saw that as a good fit. I think as it went along, and as the Knicks continued to make moves, there just wasn't a spot for Westbrook, in a role that probably he would want.
Yeah.
So he kind of got ruled out based on the other moves they made. But certainly beginning of free agency going into that night one, there was mutual interest. And so, looking at Sacramento, maybe he becomes available. And I don't know, again, the money, I'm not 1,000% sure. I'm sure they could figure it out, though. A combination of salaries going out to make it work if they wanted to. Look, there's going to be options, I think, that backup guard market, and I think the Knicks are going to do their due diligence on that, again, assuming everybody's healthy going into that first week of February.
This is once again the quarter season report. Salute to everybody on KFTV Nation. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. CP the Fanchise with the great Ian Begley on the other side. When I think about the trades and the limited assets that they have, I look at two people here who, from a salary standpoint and, maybe from a young player standpoint, may appeal, even though, one is very ineffective and one is basically inactive. Yabusele, struggling. Dadiet getting no burn. And, in his case, I look at a guy like a Diawara getting more minutes over him. To me, it's not a good reflection of how they're drafting as of late. What do you make of just those two guys and their roles with the team right now?
In a general sense, CP, I'm with you on the recent picks. You're not seeing a lot from them. And to me, if you're looking at the front office, you're grading them. The picks have not been great recently. So yeah, I'm with you there. But yeah, with Dadiet, I think that sometimes how it works is your guy's not playing, and you figure out with the team, hey, can we send him somewhere where he might play? Can we figure out a good landing spot for him? Sometimes it ends up like that, and just given where everything has been and is with Dadiet and the Knicks, wouldn't be stunned to see it end up at that place. And Yabusele, look, that was their big free agent signing, and you can argue over who's to blame, why it hasn't worked out, but it hasn't worked out, and that's another kind of poor reflection on the front office. Didn't give Yabusele big money; they didn't have big money to spend, but that was their biggest target, and it could be another one of those situations where everybody gets their heads together and you say, it's not working here. Where can we get you to where you're comfortable and to where it works for us? So, yeah, those two. And then, the idea that Mitchell Robinson not extended, CP, you know how the history of this place, if you're not extended, you get traded in a lot of different instances. So you see what happens there, too, with Robinson and with that potential extension kind of sitting there.
Yeah, and with the Yabusele thing, I was asked last night why I think he's struggling. I think, when you look at the way that he played with Philly, number one, he was averaging 26 minutes a night. So he had a lot of chance to just go out there and play his game. But also, I think it's a combination of the system, and just in terms of they have him almost exclusively as a stretch big, whereas in Philly, his shot diet has changed tremendously. In Philly, they had him operating out of the pick and roll. He's diving to the basket. He's attacking the basket. He's using his size and physicality to his advantage. Whereas here, it's either, you got to get your threes up, you got to play defense, and then you got to hit the bench.
Yeah.
He's in a tough spot. He's struggling mightily. Whether or not he's in shape, I'm not so sure. But it's not working so far, man.
You bring up a good point because somebody, I forget who it was, I want to give them credit. Might have been Fred Katz asking about Yabusele not being used in the pick and roll and kind of why that was. They were talking to Mike Brown, and Brown said, "Look, he's a four in our system. There are different opportunities for him to kind of take advantage of what he's seeing and get shots and all that. But he's not being used as a five, so he's not going to be that screener that maybe he was in Philadelphia, where he was seeing pick and rolls more often and he was operating out of that. That hasn't happened here in New York. And maybe, you switch things up and you put him at the five off the bench, but I don't see that kind of drastic shift in the rotation happening. And yeah, it just hasn't worked out to date. And so we'll see where it sits, December 15th and beyond.